Hey guys, it's me, Mr. 250, and welcome back to Umineko. We last left off with the possibility of maybe getting some sort of magic protection, but we have to go to Natsui's corpse and get her key and stuff like that, and I'm kind of curious where it's going to go, if it goes anywhere, in fact. Let's try out this text box for now. I think I like this text box. It might be a little bit harder to read, but it does look nicer. But we'll try it for this time. Anyway, the last thing that was said in the text box was George saying, no matter how many times I see it, it's still awful.
Shannon-san, 鍵を頼みます。お亡くなりになられたとはいえ、奥様はレディーです。私には触れることができません。
はい。
Shannon nodded sharply, her expression filled with a sense of duty. George, Goda, and Shannon had broken a suitable window and were inside the chapel. Since they really hadn't wanted to break one, they had searched for another way in just in case. But in the end, after proving again that there was nowhere they could slip in through, it only became more obvious that this chapel was a mysterious closed room. Inside the chapel, time had stopped since they had left it earlier. Of course, George hadn't been able to approach this horrible Halloween party again. It was only natural, because it made him remember, again, the sadness of losing both of his parents at once. And Goda, thinking of the possibility that these corpses might have changed in some horrible way, now that half a day had passed, didn't want to let George approach. Shannon followed Goda's instructions and approached the party table. Normally, Shannon might have resented having another dirty job forced on her. But now, she could truly understand Goda's mental state. Even though Goda had prestigious skill, he'd gotten into trouble, lost his job, and been left out in the streets when Natsui had given him a new life. Even though it had just been a casual employment for Natsui, Goda must have felt that it was a turning point in his fate. Those around Goda could see that he felt a special kind of loyalty to Natsui. So he probably didn't want to lose that feeling, even though she was dead. Now that half a day had passed, the bodies of Natsui and the rest had changed completely. Small bugs that had sniffed out the smell of death had started to gather. It really wasn't something you wanted to look at directly. Because of her long experience as a servant, Shannon had an idea of which pocket Natsui had kept the key to her room in. Probably in this pocket. Her guess didn't fail her. Just by touching the outside of the pocket, she was immediately able to feel it. Shannon held the key up high, showing the others that it had been found. As George and Goda watched her, their eyes opened wide. That wasn't the expression Shannon was expecting, so it startled her. Oh, spooky butterflies! Because Shannon hadn't noticed. George and Goda, watching from afar, had noticed it first. Because when Shannon had held the key up high, a blizzard of gold leaf had seeped up from around the table. There were countless gold butterflies. Because it was the first time George had seen them, it might have looked like some kind of illusion. But Goda already knew. He knew that those gold butterflies were a long way from being beautiful, and that they caused some kind of misfortune. And that gold swelled, trying to suck Shannon inside.
Shannon-san, 走って!
Shannon also realized that gold butterflies were trying to swallow her up. She ran unsteadily, her expression still shocked. As she did, the gold butterflies danced around Shannon at once. They grouped together. They tried to swallow her up.
Shannon! So, なんだこれは? これが君たちの言っていた黄金の蝶なのか? 早く外へ! こいつらめ! くそ!
George and Goda rushed up to Shannon, driving off the group of butterflies. and while the butterflies were scattered, they ran towards the broken window. However, they needed good footing to get out of the window, which was surrounded with shards of broken glass. When they had entered, there had been enough time to prepare for that, but now there was none. Goda took off his jacket, swinging it around and scattering the group of butterflies. But he was vastly outnumbered. It was doubtful that it even bought them a short amount of time. George struggled with the broken handle. Its age showed, and it didn't turn well. I can't leave it to strength. It needs the right angle or some trick. At that time, Goda saw it. He was seen by it. In other words, their eyes met. On top of the party table. No, as if it was holding up the stained glass, floating and laughing, the figure of the witch. As the number of gold butterflies decreased, he saw the figure of the laughing witch in the center of the gold whirlwind. It should have been Goda's first meeting with her, but he knew her at a glance. Just like the other servants had said, this was certainly, the witch of the portrait herself. Oh, oh yeah. Whoops. Another good track. The golden whirlwind that wrapped around the witch burst. It was like an evil hand had literally spread its fingers and was trying to attack them. The group of gold butterflies made a zah sound and attacked. George's voice brought Shannon and Goda back to themselves. Standing here now would be the same as a frog being stared down by a snake. They had to resist. They had to fight this incarnation of the new brutal and frightening order that Rokenjima had been wrapped in. There was no time to take out their umbrellas. The three of them dashed out into the pouring rain. The three of them never realized because they didn't turn around. But the gold butterflies apparently couldn't handle the rain too well, and this hampered their ability to chase after the humans. The three people ran from their gold pursuers and flew into the mansion. They unlocked the door and flew into the room. A bit of the scent from Natsui's favorite gentle incense remained in the room. However, there was no time to let that calm them now. Shannon claimed that because of her woman's sense. But in the corner by the bed, there was only an incense burner, a half-read novel, and glasses. But the dresser was elegant and had many drawers, and it would be understandable if she had kept some of her valuables there. He began to violently open each one of the drawers. He had to hurry. He couldn't actually hear footsteps, but he had the feeling that the witch was approaching. He had the feeling that her laugh was approaching. He emptied the drawers one by one and examined their contents. Every small box for makeup looked like a treasure box, and the amount of effort it would take to inspect all of them made him feel a little dizzy. At a glance, it looked slightly larger than a music box. When shaken, it rustled, as though various small objects were inside. But it was locked and didn't open. Well, that's inconvenient. We kind of already left her behind. Break it gently. Goda looked all over the room, trying to see if there was some tool they could use. And he noticed the door, which had been left open ever since they had entered. He approached the door to close it, and noticed the abominable shadows of people approaching from beyond the darkness in the hall. No, the phrase shadows of people wasn't right, because that referred to human shadows. You can't call the shadows of being that aren't human shadows of people. Goda's voice trailed off. It was the shock from seeing a procession of those not of this world. He was a servant, so he knew all of the servants that worked for the Ushiramiya family. But he didn't know about these. However, they were definitely servants. They weren't servants working for Ushiramiya Kinzo or Ushiramiya Cross. Oh, look, it's our friend again. Multiple friends. They were new servants who worked for the new master of the mansion, the Golden Witch Beatrice, who had goat heads and bright red boiled eyes of lava. Oh, and scary pointy things. Get out of my way, I'm busy laughing. As the new master laughed loudly and trimly directed 6 of the new servants. He saw them pierce the darkness as they came. Of course, she was clad in the gold butterflies that were her symbol. Goda hurriedly closed the door and locked it. However, just as he locked it, it returned to normal, just as though a spring or something had knocked it back. Nice spring sound. Just as though some prankster on the other side of the door was creating the illusion that it was opening every time he closed it. They shouldn't have reached the other side of the door yet. Then who? How? It felt just like playing with a broken toy. It was like the witch could see Goda's frantic effort through the door, even as their footsteps were approaching. And when not just the footsteps, but their breath too could be heard, Goda gave up on the lock and slammed into the door, locking it himself with his large body. George took it and once again dug into the crack under the lid of the treasure box. It looks like it's working. It's okay, calm down. Your screaming isn't going to make it work better. The pressure from across the door grew even stronger. Goda screamed. It wasn't a war cry for this test of strength. He was terrified. He was simply terrified that except for a single wooden door, he would be touching something not of this world. But he was still lucky. He wasn't touching them directly, because they were on the other side of the door. So it was natural that if he touched them directly, Goda's cry would turn from something brave into a shameful and very real scream that would make glass shatter. Goda couldn't believe what was right before his eyes. Going through the door, an arm, almost as though it was sticking through water. As though it was perfectly natural, slipped through, and rubbed the back of Goda's hand as he tried to hold the door closed as though his life depended. It probably does. It slid up his arm to his chest and then his chin. By now, Goda's scream didn't sound like his voice. He could hear a sweet whispering voice from across the door. It wasn't coming from the witch, but judging by the sound of the voice, it was a young woman. But that didn't change the fact that it was a voice from not one of this world. Oh man, you got JPEG to death. That obscene arm split open, and they heard the sound of something jumping around the room at an incredible speed. They didn't know what it was. Incredibly fast, small, like steel or maybe a beetle. When it buried itself right in the center of Goda's chest and stopped, for the first time, they realized that its true form was something like a stake with a strange design on it. Goda's large body shook, bent backwards, and fell over. As it did, the door opened softly, even though no one was pushing it, and the new master of this room was welcomed in. It looked almost as though the door itself had accepted her. The goat attendants entered one after another, 6 of them. Then that witch entered and the gold butterflies entered. The room was wrapped in a blizzard of gold leaf, which fell and piled up, turning it into a world of gold.
Shannon, ルーレットはそなたとジョージを選んだ。解放の日に感謝せよ。未練はあるまい？ないよな。惚れた男から婚約指輪をもらって夜も共にしないうちに殺されてしまっても未練なんかないよな。女の幸せを教えてもらいたかったんだろう。ああ、シャノン、ダメダメ、垂れてるぜ。お前の口元から未練がダラダラ垂れてんのが見えるぜ、シャノン。
You're sure having fun there, aren't you? It was the sound of the lid to the treasure box breaking and opening. When George turned it over, accessories, charms, various small objects that Natsui had treasured when she was a girl fell out. Mixed in with that was a pouch that stood out from the rest. And inside of it was more random crap, and it turned out there was no mirror here and everyone died at the end. He picked it up and checked it immediately. This was it.
見つけた、これだ。
いいって及ばなかったの。死ね！
くそ！
All at once, the gold butterflies attacked George, who was impatiently trying to remove the contents of the pouch. and fancy magic happened. At that time, it seemed like, for just an instant, a bright red flash lit up the room. That red flash seemed to wipe out the gold butterflies that were raging around the room, as though drawing a circle with Shannon in the center. Therefore, it was a very divine scene. Almost as though a single streak of light cut through the clouds in the ceiling, in this world of gold. George, who was curled in a ball trying to protect himself from the group of butterflies, didn't have a clue what was going on. Then he noticed that Shannon was blocking the way to him, shielding him. As with a face that she had never shown him before, she glared at the witch and the rest.
忘れていた。そなたもまた金蔵の優れた家具だったな。それもカノンよりだいぶ熟成した。
カノン君をよくも殺したことじゃない。よくも亡骸を消し去り、その名誉まで汚そうとしたな。
おやおや、シャーノン、それ怒ってるのか？カノンに会えなくて寂しいならわらわに頼めよ。いつだって会わせてやるというのに。
Oh, that was awfully thoughtful of you. When the witch snapped her fingers, one of the 6 goat attendants glittered gold and changed into Cannon. I like your red eyes, Cannon. It was definitely a sight to make one doubt their eyes. It was definitely Cannon's face. However, in those eyes, there was none of that sincere glint of Cannon's. They were only the vague eyes of furniture that only obeyed the orders of the witch. George couldn't understand the scene right before his eyes. And he finally understood why Goda and the rest had been unable to talk about what they'd seen in the servant room.
楽しいですか？
ああ、楽しいぞ。死が引き裂いた2人を再会させるのはいつだって楽しい。死で引き裂いて1度、合わせて2度、もう一度引き裂いて3度楽しめるのだからな。さあ、カノン、姉と遊んでやりなさい。もし痛めつけられたら、思いっきり苦悶の表情を浮かべてやるといい。
From the imposter Cannon's arm, a strangely shining locust extended. It planned to tear Shannon apart with that. Shannon, who still hadn't prepared her heart with a single stroke.
許さない。一度ならず二度までも死者を汚すなんて許せない。
ほざくな。弟に殺されろよ、シャーノン。きっといい夢が見られるぜ。
As the imposter Cannon drew several purple loci, he should have attacked Shannon. But when he flew at Shannon, it felt like some kind of invisible wall had been set up in front of her. The loci left a bright red ripple on the wall, and it repelled the imposter. No, it didn't repel him, it smashed him. It knocked him back, turning into golden dust into pieces, scattering him. The figure of the foolish furniture who had mocked Cannon's form, and even disgraced his honor after his death, broke into countless gold butterflies. And then those butterflies themselves broke into pieces, and those pieces were broken into pieces. Until they were no longer butterflies, but a golden splash and disappeared.
Shannon!
ジョージさんはそこから動かないでください。中心軸をずらしたくない。
これは驚いた。虫一匹殺せない面をしてこれだけの力を見せたか。 なるほど。霊境がそなたに力を貸しているというのか。しかしその霊境の本当の力を引き出すには準備も時間も足りないな。そのどちらもわらわは与えはせぬ。
The spirit mirror George gripped had let out a divine sparkle, and displayed a strength that wouldn't submit to wicked power. But that sparkle was no match for the witch's sinister nature.
これだから家具は怖い。予期せずしてタンスの角にぶつける足の小指のような気持ちよ。これだから家具は怖い。家具
私は家具じゃない。そしてあなたを今はとても哀れに思う。
何？ほ
う。
1000年の魔女に100年も至らぬ家具が今何と言ったか。
あなたはとても哀れな人。愛し合う二人に未練がないわけがない。でもあなたの期待するような未練はかけらほどもない。
語るか、家具の分際で。ジョージと結ばれたくてわらわの靴を舐めた日々を忘れてわらわにそれを語るか。
愛に生き泥濘を這うが人間。それを嘲笑い見下しているつもりであなたはそれにはるかに劣る。私は今こそあなたを哀れに思う。愛し合う二人にとって添い遂げることにどれほどの意味が。意味はある、きっとある。でもそれはあなたの言うこととは全然違う。もっと新鮮にして、あなたごとき邪悪が口にする資格もないほどの新鮮な意味がある。だから私にはすでに何の未練もない。ジョージさんと愛を誓い合った。その証として指輪を受け取った。それで永遠の誓いは完了した。あなたがどんな邪悪な魔法や悪意で私たちを災難だとしても永遠は汚さない。
Ha. That was fun. I didn't quite expect that, I guess. I mean, I'd almost forgotten the fact that, they had fancy powers that Shannon... I figured Shannon would have, like, a fancy locust thing. I didn't think she'd have all that. That was kind of cool. Anyway, that's where we're going to stop off for today. That one was fun. Poor Goda. Goda got struck down. But we will delve into that more next time. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.